What's happening, friendly ghosts, friendlies and non-friendlies? So last time on the LODJP comparison playthrough adventure, damn, that's a lot of it's a long title. We fought against Lenus, and she made me eat my words a little bit. She was a little bit tougher than I remember her being in the JP version, but I will say that it's not enough for me to move her up on the boss scale. With that said, I have good news and I have bad news. The bad news is that I lost the footage for the next stage in this playthrough, which would have been the ghost ship. So that's the bad news. The good news is that that entire ghost ship area is pretty much the exact same as it is, so you're not really missing much. So that's the good news. It's the same exact journey, the same exact boss fight. The boss fight is no different. There's no real changes other than, you know, just slight numbers here and there, but it's nothing too drastic, nothing to even make a video on about. So if I were to lose any footage, I'm glad that it's that footage, because it's, you know, it was whatever. You ain't missing much. But I did get the most exciting part of that ghost ship area, which was that I did the treasure chest and I got it on the first attempt. Not the first attempt, but you know, I didn't mess it up. You know, I got it on the first try without messing it up. So that's the exciting part. And I was thinking about doing like a hunting video where I was just like mess around hunting like the special enemies and stuff like that. So I was thinking about doing that at the beginning. So that's how I ended up with like 5 or 6 spirit potions. But yeah, I didn't really grind or anything like that, so I'm still pretty much the same level. And I only did it because I went and got Congo's spirit. So I had to pay off the debt. You know, I had to pay off the loan, man. You ain't trying to get these sarks after me, man. So I had to pay it off. I had to hunt new parts down a little bit. And I was gonna make like a tutorial video about that, but I decided, you know, we'll just keep it on pushing. So the next boss fight that we are going to be heading towards, I am happy to present that it is going to be none other than Lenus Part 2. And this is the one I said was harder than Lenus 1 in Japanese. I can confirm after playing it that I still believe that. I can still say that I believe that, and hopefully that will come across to you. So that's gonna be the next boss fight, but we got a cutscene, a cop happen on right now, so I'm gonna edge out a little bit and you can hear Japanese Rose, you know, best lady, best woman, best heroine. Is that how they said heroine? Coolest female character. You know, we're gonna watch this flashback, y'all. Peep y'all in a minute.
あなたの命無駄にはしない。
味わうがよい。手を離すんだ。せめて君だけでも。
So we are having a boss awareness. What should you worry about Lenus Part 2? I guess we have to start off with the NA version. Lenus Part 2 is a really average fight at best. It's an average fight. It's nothing you have to worry about other than the dragon's big attack at the very start of the fight, and he sometimes does it again halfway near the end of the fight. He might do it a second time, but other than that, Lenus is severely crippled compared to her first fight in the North American game, because all of her attacks are element based. They are all water based, whereas in the original fight they would be water mixed with darkness. So she had a way to mix it up a little bit, and she had a AoE physical, so she had a lot of ways to mix it up. And the reason why the element part is so important is because an easy way to just completely nullify every single thing that she can do is to just special with dart, and all of her attacks will get cut in half plus another half because you're wearing the D armor, you know, so she becomes a cakewalk. Unfortunately for some people who play the game on a PS2, they run into a crash error where the game does not load after you use Dragoons in this fight. I've never come across that myself, but I've never played it on a PS2 either. So, yeah, you know, that's that. But even still, she's not as fast, she's not as quick, she doesn't hit as hard. You know, it's just, she's so much weaker. But we're in the JP comparisons, and we're playing the JP game. As I said in the first fight, like the last video, where she was buffed, but also she was nerfed more than she was buffed. In this fight, she's just buffed all the way around. You know, there's just no nerfs in sight at any point in the fight. Not her dragon, not her. Nothing is nerfed. Everything is on the up and up and up. And to get it even further than that, she hits just as hard as the dragon. And the dragon hits harder than he does in North America. Lenus has two specials in her part 2 fight. She has one where she does like this, both of them are AoEs, but she has one where she like does like this tap dance, and she like raises the water and traps you and like drowns you. She has another one where she does a final flash. Right, she does a freaking final flash. Alright, in the North American game, it's not much of a difference no matter which moves he does, it doesn't really do that much. It's like a couple of hundred at best, like 200, 300, you know, maybe 400. So that's her at her worst in North American. But in JP, her tippy tap dancing move, that's her weaker move, that tops off at 400 to 500. So that's already better than her worst attack in North American. And her final flash does as much as Regole's gigantic tidal wave. And those do like around 700. Even when you beat the dragon, you still have to worry about her potentially getting a full party wipe on you that does not exist in the game that we've played. Her final flash is so buffed in this version, so buffed that it's worth concerning yourself about it, because it could end your game at any point in time if she decides to pull it out. And she can pull it out at any point in time. She's not limited to a scripted scene like the dragon is. She can just do it whenever she wants to. So keep that in mind. Not only do you have to worry about that big attack at the very beginning, she can also do her version of that attack at any point that she chooses. So you have a double whammy situation going on here. But she can only do that move, from what I'm aware of, she can only do that move if you have all three members standing. So if you have one member down, she cannot do that move. So one strat that you can have is just to have one person go down in the fight. That way she can never pull off that big move and you could just steamroll her, because she becomes much easier at that point. And another difference in the fight is that the dragon, I don't know if it's really a difference, but it's caught my eye. It caught my eye. He seems to have like the speed property to him, and I kind of feel like this is kind of just throughout the game, but I feel like it was more present when I played this. It seems like whenever he does a physical attack, he gets a speed boost that allows him to take an extra turn, and that usually happens a lot when you have an optional fight later on. We're not get into that, but he does it quite a bit here, and it caught my eye because I don't remember him doing it as much in North American. So that's just something that caught my eye. Other than that, I think that they take a lot more turns than they normally would, so that's just an automatic difficulty boost that they're taking more turns. And then you throw in that they can potentially one-shot you before the fight even begins. If Lenus decides that she just wants to just throw out her special at the beginning and hit you for like nearly like 700 or 800 depending on who you bring in, and then you get hit by another turn by the dragon doing his, and then that's an instant game over. I'm just saying, the possibilities for BS is strong. It kind of puts it into question for yourself when you're playing. Is like, you want to get rid of the dragon first because it's easier to get rid of him first, and he does the most damage. But now you're dealing with, they both do just about the exact amount of damage. They both have the potential to one-shot you, or not one-shot you, but to, they both have the potential to just cripple you to the point where you have to go on the defensive at any point in time. And if you don't, they have the potential to probably double up on that and just game over you. So Lenus is a threat, Dragon is a threat. That's the main difference, because they're not a threat in North American. So other than that, I'll let the first fight speak for itself. Spoilers, there's going to be multiple fights, but I have to say that I did not get a game over. if we're technically speaking, I won the first fight, but there was some trouble. I didn't have all my members survive, and I want this to be a comparison playthrough, so I have to go back and do it again because I want them all to be like equal on both sides, so I can compare both games, you know, as best as I possibly can. So I went back and I had to do the fight over again. And that's where the trouble starts. So you're going to watch part of the first fight, and then we're going to cut it short, and I'm going to skim through it, and then we're going to run it back. And I'm going to show you that I won the first time. And then we're going to go over to the next fights. And it's going to be a long one, so just hang in there, and I'll see y'all in a bit.
三途の私
Okay, let me break it down. This is a no item shop challenge, which means I only have a couple of items to work with. Right now I'm running kind of low, and I have 3 heals, and I'm not trying to waste them. I have 1 big heal that I'm trying to save as we're going into chapter 3, and chapter 3 is where the difficulty spike normally comes in. I ain't trying to have that difficulty spike in JP. I don't remember what it's like, but I'm not trying to go in that with no resources. So I'm trying my hardest, goddammit. Trying my hardest to save on to that with all my might. And I can't do it. I'm trying to get all my peoples to live. So I'm going to try a different strategy. I'm trying to nerf her spells by using the special, but using the special early leaves me kind of helpless, like I don't really have much of a way to defend after I use that, and that's like my main way to like really dig in on both sides with the defense and the offense. This is tough trying to keep Hashell alive. Hashell keeps going over like a freaking scrub over here. But I had to switch over the therapy ring onto him just to try to keep him alive, but I'm losing speed in the process by doing that, and that's really the main change I made with that. And I'm not going to talk through this fight, so I'm gonna let this fight happen, and then we'll be back probably, and I'll see y'all in a bit. Okay, so I just got screwed. That's all I can really say. I got screwed. I played the slot machine, tried to get the random item. I got screwed over. There's nothing else I can say about that. I just got screwed. I'm trying to hold on to my freaking items because I'm worried about disc 3. I can't go into disc 3 wasting my best heal. I'm trying to hold on to it because I know it's going to be brutal as hell. But this is just making it so tough. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can hold on to it. They hit so freaking hard, man. And it's not like I'm if I were to just heal like normally, like in the next turn, they would just put me right back down anyways. So my plan, I think, going into this one is just hold off on the special, inch them down a little bit, and then spring it on them. Spring it on them like a bag of mustard in the rain, you know. Just try to hold on and save it for the winning play. But again, it's not easy. Like, it's not as, I'm sure I could. I'm sure that C's not as hard as I'm making it look. I'm sure of that. But that's, with that said, C's not easy by any stretch of the means. Okay? And yeah, man, it's just, if I had a revive, this would work pretty easily. What can I say, man? He's kicking my ass, man. What can I say about that? There's nothing I can say. I've never had this problem in the other game. I mean, look how easily I beat it in the other game. You know, I don't even remember it even happening. You know, it just kind of went by so fast. But also in this part, you're gonna see me switch the smoothing option on. So I have that going in through my cables, so it's naturally having that. But I'm also turning the smoothing option on, so it's gonna be like a double effect. I don't know how it's gonna turn out, but you know, I don't even know if you'll be able to tell the difference. But it might look like it might look a bit like the Final Fantasy VIII remaster that they put out, you know, with it might have that kind of effect on your Indubligata. I'm just gonna put that out there, and hey, I ain't got nothing else to say. Alright, this one was just cold-blooded. That was just cold-blooded, you know, I didn't even get in, like, for like less than a minute and I was already done. By the time I took my socks off, it was already a game over. Right? Like, we're gonna have to erase that one from the tapes. Like, I feel some sort of way by having like a montage of getting my ass kicked. Like, I feel some sort of way, like maybe I could just edit all of this out. I feel like I don't have to do this. I don't have to do this. But I am a man of the people, and the people demand violence. And with that, I can't look at this anymore. I'm just gonna head out, and you know, I'm just gonna sleep this one off. You know, eventually I'm going to win. You know, it's gonna happen eventually. You know, so I'm gonna head out. May peace be with. Always keep your heads up. Deuces, dos pos, adios, stay cool. And if you like this content, be sure to show some love. But always be sure to show that love to the people who matter to you. This is ITOwl bidding y'all fairly be well and be cool. Peace and much love. Deuces.
私
よしはっほうオルケイノ ミックスバック。
三途の私。
よし。ほう。オルケイド。ミックスバック。
三途の私。